WWDC 2021. The year it all went wrong. The rumors seemed so solid, it was a surefire bet Apple was about to announce the new, more powerful, totally redesigned M1X MacBook Pro. SD card slots, USB-A, HDMI, it was destined to be the MacBook of the future, but like borrowing heavily from the past. But it never came. As if to rub salt into the wound, it was even tagged on the official YouTube video. Follow-up rumors claimed production issues had plagued the computer's release, with pundits saying it could come in September this year, or next year, maybe. But all this time, us filmmakers have only had hope to hold on to. Something amazing is coming. Yet, it still hasn't.
But then I realized something, and I purchased a MacBook Air instead. Let's talk about it. So for full transparency, this isn't my first M1 Mac. I actually purchased this same computer earlier this year because I was really keen to see if the hype train was justified. Everyone was calling this thing a feat of engineering with its amazing performance, outstanding battery life, and on the MacBook Air at least, no fan. Sorry, fan. And I didn't even bother taking it easy on it. I put this thing to the test. I started with 4K 100 FPS footage from the Sony a7S, ironically video of me unboxing the computer, and it choked. But let me be clear, this is a lot for any computer to handle, and I was using applications like Premiere Pro, which wasn't optimized for Apple Silicon at the time, and DaVinci Resolve 17.1, which was also in beta. I did try Final Cut Pro and it did the absolute best out of all three, but it still locked up more than once. But even with all of this, I was still highly impressed. This is actually my first MacBook Air I purchased in 2013, and I remember taking this on a snow trip and editing GoPro and Sony RX100 footage on it. And this thing was all fans blazing, with frames being dropped all over the place at 1080p. It was a nightmare. Granted, we're now 8 years down the track, but to see a MacBook Air, which has never been known for its performance, handling this 4K footage without totally causing the system to crash was a feat in itself. And for normal editing tasks like this YouTube video, it's just incredible that I can edit 4K Sony FX6 footage on this machine with DaVinci Resolve, no issue. But of course, this isn't the end game, this is just the beginning. For years, people have griped about their issues with the MacBook Pro. Its touch bar received very mixed reception, and the change to 4 Thunderbolt ports meant dongle hell for most professionals who needed to connect everyday I/O like USB-A. So as Apple announced its transition to its own silicon, and rumors started coming out about a redesigned Pro that's in the works, with all of the ports filmmakers could want, including an SD card slot and HDMI, I'm sure this got most of us very excited. So I returned the Air. I mean, this is a first gen product and I was keen to see what would come next. I'm sure the updated chip would have only been even better and would play back my 4K slow-mo footage smooth as butter. In fact, as a Mac Pro user, I'm still a little worried the damage this M1X chip might cause, because I might be struggling to sell this thing for $500 once this transition is said and done. But I digress. You see, at the time I was thinking of getting a laptop for video work, and the M1X sounded like a powerhouse on the go. But remember, this thing doesn't exist yet, at least at the time of me filming. And then I started to consider the main use cases for what I'd need from my computer. Really, what I was searching for was something portable, to take with me on set for footage transfers, take to different workspaces and do things like write scripts, research, send emails, potentially do a rough cut if I'm on the road, but nothing over the top. I want to do a video on this channel down the line, but I don't enjoy editing on a laptop, and that's kind of the reason I built this setup you see behind me. So if you're keen to see that, definitely let me know in the comments and subscribe. And then I was also hit with a reality check. It came from an article online which reminded me that the new MacBook Pro wasn't going to be cheap, especially if it's integrating new technologies like mini LED. This was, and still potentially is, going to be a premium computer for a premium price. And I want to be clear, this isn't a bad thing. For many professionals, this will hopefully be the MacBook of their dreams. No more touch bar, desktop class performance for professional use cases like editing and potentially even 3D graphics. However, for myself at least, it seems a little overkill. So I did the cost calculation and realized that the M1 MacBook Air satisfies all of my current need requirements, And at the price I was able to pick this thing up for, we're talking about a potential saving of $1,000 to $2,000 on this Rumoured M1X. It's an absolute steal when it comes to value for money. Sure, it's not the most exciting looking computer with the same design since 2018. Which one's mine?
Flip a coin?
Nice try. But with 18 hours of battery and performance that's getting close to the 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro, it'll certainly do the job. I even put that same 100 FPS footage back into DaVinci Resolve, which is now in version 17.2. I slowed it down to 25% and played it back at 25 frames per second, and it had no drop frames on battery power. I'm insanely impressed. Now, does this mean I'm totally out of the woods yet? No, because I'm only human, and I'm sure when this new MacBook Pro is eventually announced, I'll be drawn to it like a moth to a flame. But being realistic with myself and really appreciating the setup I have behind me not only saved me a lot of money, but it also saved me a lot of waiting too. However, I realize not everyone can say the same thing. Maybe you don't have a desktop computer setup. Maybe you have a much slower laptop at the moment and you're holding out to see what this new Apple chip will deliver next. But the problem is everything we're talking about right now is hypothetical. It may be released next month or it may come next year. We just don't know. And even then, is there something like an M1 Mac Mini or MacBook Pro that will actually satisfy your needs in the short to medium term? Sure, having an SD card slot in this new MacBook Air would be nice, but again, given we're talking about a saving of up to $2,000, a small adapter that I have to drag along doesn't sound like that bad of a trade-off. Because especially when it comes to Apple stuff, and camera gear sometimes, it's easy to convince ourselves the next best thing is coming. But unless you know for sure what it is and whether it's the answer to your problems, you may be setting yourself up for disappointment. And even then, do you have the luxury of waiting out? Is it costing you money, time, or productivity by not having these tools right now? If not, it's probably more of a nice to have, just like this MacBook Air is for me. It gives me more freedom to be mobile, but for what its sole purpose is, it's not directly making me money or an absolute requirement for my job. And even once these new MacBook Pros come out, it doesn't render the previous models obsolete. So if what you have right now is working for you, it maybe makes sense to keep it going until you actually have a need to upgrade. Having a lot of experience on the hype train that is new product releases, I can tell you the excitement and buzz of every initial launch eventually wears off. The Mac Pro behind me is great, but it's not without its issues, which you only learn about once you start to use it, and then those rose-colored glasses start to fade. However, having said that, if you are going to buy a new product, my best advice is to buy it as soon as it gets released. It gives you the longest possible time to enjoy it and get your value for money before it gets upgraded and replaced down the line. I might have waited a little too long on this MacBook Air, but my hope is even with this new Apple Silicon, it'll continue to serve me well, at least in the near term. And for those actually wanting a Mac portable that can do high-end video on the go, we're so close to September and this potential rumored release, I guess it's smart to wait. But again, my point here is to be realistic with yourself, because I'm sure there are quite a few people who will end up buying these M1 Macs even after these new Pros are announced. That's gonna do it for this video, but if you're keen to know a little bit more about this MacBook Air or the Mac Pro behind me, let me know in the comments below and hit subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I'll see you all in the next one.